innovators, leaders, and thinkers generally. So we're just we are raising Africa's next generation of great people. And we do this through different programs. We have our entrepreneurship classes, we have our business fairs, we have financial management classes, and this podcast, this live podcast is another way of reaching out to our target audience, which is parents and any person any person concerned or who influences young people, so kids and teens as well. So that's what we're trying to reach out to that audience as well. And on today's episode, this is the first episode of Parents Connect podcast, and it's such an amazing privilege to have with us this amazing person. And by name.
Okay.
Okay. Let me start meeting some people. Can you mute your mic once you come on, please? All right. I think that's.
Or is different direction.
So, as I was saying,
Hold on,
network is breaking. So the thing is,
there, I think that solves that. Okay, so I'm just quickly going to go into how the format's going to work. We're going to have our resource person speaking to us with about roughly 20-30 minutes, depends on how long she wants to speak. And then we can entertain questions, answers, contributions. This is a platform, this is a community. We're all here to learn, and trust me, learn I am here for, really. So I just quickly going to read the profile of Mrs. Esther George. Mrs. Esther George is a female master of ceremony. She's a motivational and inspirational public speaker. One of her life's purpose is to use her voice and words as instruments of positive change in the lives of young men and women. Her ultimate vision is to mentor young people all over the world, irrespective of race, gender, and beliefs. She is a trained microbiologist with first and second degrees from the University of Port Harcourt and the Rivers State University, respectively. She is certified as a professional master of ceremony on public speaker by the Talkademic Training School for Masters of Ceremony. She is certified by Mold Africa as an influential transformer, specifically on strategic transformation and emotional intelligence. She's the brain behind the Facebook group Teens That Can Africa, an online platform for reaching out to teenagers and young people positively. She's married with kids and resides in Port Harcourt. Please, with a rousing applause, I know I can't hear your applause, but please just clap as we make welcome and give the stage to Mrs. Esther George. Thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you, Kayla, for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
so
good evening, everyone.
I'm just going to go on to mute myself, and then the floor is yours. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone that has hooked up to this conversation this evening. It gives me great pleasure to be sharing this space with you this evening. I am Mrs. Esther George, and I want to thank the Early Flight Academy powered by Akelachi Keje for putting this conversation together. And together we'll be speaking on the topic, discussing social media trends with our children. So once again, you're all welcome. Just stay with me for the next 20-30 minutes, and let's just share together. I want to start by saying that 95% of teenagers go online, and these teens are aged between the ages of 12 to 17. This age group have access to internet from their smartphones, and also statistically 50% of teenagers spend more than 7 hours online. 25% spend about 5 to 7 hours. 20% of teenagers spend about 3 to 5 hours, while 5% spend about 1 to 3 hours. Now, out of this number, we have about 80% involved in illegal downloads, 78% involved in inappropriate content and relationship with strangers. 55% are involved in exchange of adult content. Don't get it twisted, that's pornography. And then 33% is involved in hacking. A lot of our parents, so to say, probably just use our phones, for conventionally making calls, chat with a friend, run your business. And there seems to be a disconnect between what our children know and what our parents know. So the purpose of this meeting this evening is for us to bridge the gap so that as parents, as educators, as teachers, as guardians, as someone that is in custody of a child anywhere, you can be able to have conversations that are relevant to the kind of things that our young people, our children are exposed to on the internet daily. Remember I said that some young people spend as much as 7 hours online every single day. Okay, so moving forward, I made a post, I think about 2 or 3 weeks back on Facebook, and I asked parents to have a conversation with their children, with their young adults about the currently trending Charlie Charlie challenge, where you have people putting 2 pencils together and labeling a book, write yes or no, and then you say, Charlie, Charlie, are you there, or whatever. Someone came to my comment section and said, Esther, this Charlie, Charlie thing, you're just giving it more relevance than it's actually necessary. It's simply science. 2 pencils cannot balance on top of the other, but I didn't respond anyway. But in my thinking, I thought whether it is the Charlie Charlie is demon inspired or not, parents need to have conversations with their children so as to guide them on what trending challenge to jump on or not. Okay, let's bring it down a bit. We all know that we're in the 21st century, and these days, information is at the fingertips of our children, just one click, and you have access to a whole lot of information. Now, hold that thought. Puberty for children these days begins as early as age 7, age 8. You have a child already, having these changes going through, in their bodies, in their minds, and all of that. This same child is exposed to a lot of information on the internet. At the same time, this child's brain is not fully formed. So this child is incapable of making logical decisions. As a matter of fact, a teenager's brain is fully formed at age 25. So let's put these 3 things I've just said side by side. You have a child that just entered puberty at age 8, age 9, age 10. At the same time, this child's brain is not fully developed, is not fully formed. The child may not be able to reason rationally or logically. At the same time, this same child is being influenced by the myriad of information flying around in the internet or on the internet. I'm hoping that as a parent, as a teacher, as an educator, as a guardian, you have your own brain fully developed and you are now able to wear the shoes to be able to teach, to be able to guide, to be able to instruct, to be able to mentor this child. The truth is, we can't be with our children 24/7. That's impossible. But the training that we've given to them is what will be with them and will help them make choices as they navigate through life. I read a story of a 10-year-old girl, I think last week or so. She was playing a game online. She played the game up to a point where she was told to kill herself. And guess what? She actually killed herself. Probably she thought it's a game, so even if I die in the game, I'll still be alive, in real life. But we know that it doesn't work that way. So she played the game and she ended up, taking her life, throwing her family and friends and people that care about her into mourning. The truth is, our children will be influenced one way or the other. But as parents, we can control the kind of influence we allow on our children. So what is influence? What is influence? Influence simply means adding something to the environment of an object that provokes a change in its behavior. I'll say it again. Influence is adding something to the environment of an object that provokes a change in its behavior. For example, you feel pressed. You go into the toilet to do number 1 and maybe number 2, okay? So you sit down there, just you and your toilet bowl. You sit down, you do number 1 and number 2, you leave. Now let us add something to that environment. Let's say you go in there with your phone. We've added something to the environment, okay? You could sit in your toilet for, let's say, 10, 15 minutes because something has been added to the environment. All right, let's take it up a bit. In addition to your phone, let's give you Wi-Fi. So you have your toilet, you have your phone, and you have Wi-Fi. You may end up spending like 55 minutes in the toilet. Now let's do this. You're in your toilet with your phone, you have Wi-Fi, you have a socket. You could stay in that toilet till infinity. That is the power of influence. So we must be intentional with the influence we allow into the lives of our children. Just this week, I heard that Nickelodeon star and sensational dancer Jojo Siwa has identified with the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community. And she ended her coming out by saying that you can love whoever you want to love and the world will still love you, or something like that. And this young lady has about 10 million followers online. The power of influence. Now let me ask a question. The influence that I'm talking about here is tied to our family values. What are your family values? What's your family mission? What is your vision? The basic unit of any society, we all know, is the family, okay? Corporate organizations, when you walk in, you see their mission statements, their vision statements, their values. It's clearly stated and framed, beautiful picture hung on the wall. But as families, do we have a value system we are living by? Is our vision clear? Is it clear to you, the parents? Is it clear to the children? Because values, of course, are things that we live by, and values will guide us on what decision to take, whether for good or for bad. So how clear are your values as a family, and how well have you been able to internalize or make the children or the young people you're parenting or teaching, or influencing, internalize these values? This brings me now to what your parenting style is. What kind of parents are you, and what kind of parenting style are you using? I'd like to quickly mention 3 parenting styles. We may be familiar with them. I just want to quickly mention them so I can draw out, what I want to say and make the points clearer. Are we there? Kel, are you there? All right, let me go on. Okay, let me go on. So we have what is called helicopter parents. Helicopter parents. Funny, right? You know how a helicopter, goes up in the air and somehow it just hovers and hovers on the floor, off the ground, of course, it just hovers. A lot of parents are helicopter parents. These are parents who think that love means revolving their lives around their children. They are quick to rescue their children from crisis. They try to prevent their children from experiencing the consequences of whatever action or decisions they have taken. They are forever rescuing, and they're like, what do we call them now? Rapid response squad. At the first cry, they're already there, bringing out the child, rescuing the child. And even though this model of parenting, from far, it appears that this parent loves and cares for this child so much, the consequences are actually, or the results we get from helicopter parenting, actually not so good. Helicopter parents are forever protecting their children from significant learning and growing experiences, and such children are unequipped for life's challenges because their learning opportunities have been stolen from them in the name of creating an illusion of a perfect world. And we all know that the world as it is not perfect. So that is the explanation for helicopter parenting. The second parenting model is the drill sergeant parent. Drill sergeant parent. The family is like the barracks. The parent is the commander. The children are the, what do you call them now? Officers, subordinates, okay? So the drill sergeant parents, they are forever issuing commands. Stand up, sit down, go here, wear your dress, wake up, eat your food, time to move. They are forever telling their children what to do. And this conditions their brain such that they are unable to actually think for themselves. And one of our goals as parents is to, make the child think. You do not actually need to do the thinking for the child. You just present the child with choices and allow the child to think. But drill sergeant parents are forever issuing orders and telling the child what to do. This shuts down independent thinking, This shuts down independent thinking in the minds of these children and makes them rookies in the world of decision making. Now, you and I know that life is all about choices. Where you are today is as a result of the choices and decisions you made yesterday, last year, 5 years ago. And where you will be tomorrow and 10 years from now is dependent on the choices you are making today. Okay. Now, it's important to note that children of drill sergeant parents are more susceptible to peer pressure and more susceptible to jumping on social media trends. They've lost their individuality, so they want to look like others. They want to do what other people are doing. They lack the ability to actually reason and think for themselves. And as they grow into the teen age, they shut out the voices of their parents and they now look up to their peers to tell them what to do. And you and I know that that could be a recipe for disaster in the life of any teenagers. So these drill sergeant parents create children who are followers because they never learned to think for themselves. And then we have another category of parents called laissez-faire parents. These are parents that think, oh, this child, just allow the child to do what he wants, when he wants, how he wants, and just somehow miraculously, this child will turn out right. They're laid back, they're not involved. The child just, finds his way through life. Probably they just provide food, clothing, shelter, education, and they are not involved in building character and instilling self-discipline in their children. And then we have the consultant parents. Are you a consultant parent? We have the consultant parents. These are parents with the right balance of love and logic. The parents with the right balance of love and logic. These are parents that raise children that can think, children that can reason. As children grow up, they move from being concrete thinkers to becoming abstract thinkers. And the rewards of being a consultant parent, is felt, especially when children move to becoming teenagers. They can think for themselves. They are not easily influenced. They are not jumping on trends, whether on social media or in the school or wherever. That's something I noticed during this Christmas period. I noticed that a lot of young people had their hair tinted blonde. And I was wondering, it was like someone just sent a memo and said, okay, it's time, everybody go tint your hair. And once you turn it, you just see blonde hair, blonde hair, blonde hair, blonde hair everywhere. But a child that has been raised by consultant parents would not be easily influenced because this child has been instilled proper values and can be able to think and make decisions for themselves. Consultant parents enforce limits and make children understand that they are responsible for their actions. Imagine if the weather is cold, and instead of just saying, take your coat, put on your sweater. You offer the child a choice and allow the child to make a decision. And then if along the line the weather gets really cold, the child catches cold, you live with the consequences of your decision. The children of consultant parents ask questions. They actually question. I know that in our African setting, the parent sneezes, everybody catches cold, everybody's parent is Lord and Master and Lion and all, but the children of consultant parents can actually question, not because they are rebellious, but because they are able to think and process that instruction they are receiving or the choices that are placed before them. So consultant parents put the burden of decision making on their kids' shoulders and establish options within limits. And by the time these children become teenagers, they're already used to making good decisions. So when they play a game online and the game says, now strangle yourself, they can be able to say, oh, this is a game and I'm actually playing the game in real life. I shouldn't strangle myself. I am going to die if I do that. Okay? The child will not say, my teenager, my teen's pop star, has come out to identify with lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender care community. Therefore, I should also, be involved in this thing. The child will be able to reason and think for themselves. And like I said, it all boils down to values. What values are you intentionally instilling in your child? Values like honesty, courage, reliability, dependability, responsibility, efficiency, values. What are your family values? What is your mission statement as a family? What is your vision statement? What is your tagline? If you're unmarried here, better for you, so that when it's time for you to, when you want to get married, you can pair with someone that shares the same kind of thinking, like you. That way to be easier to, make progress in your relationship and raise your children intentionally. Of course, we already know that our values dictate our behavior, and it helps us understand the difference between right and wrong. In conclusion, I like to say that the ultimate goal of parenting is raising responsible children who can think. When this is done, the kids will be able to withstand negative influences from peers and from social media, and will think twice before jumping on social media trends. My name again is Esther George. Thank you for listening. Questions, contributions are welcome. Ella.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me turn on my video. That was an explosive 30 minutes. That was even up to 30 minutes, but thank you so much, Esther. So now, I think that the chat box is there. If you want to ask any question or make any contributions, like I've said, this is a community. We're all here to learn. So we encourage questions, we encourage contributions, suggestions. So the chat box is open, or you could also just kindly signify with the raised hand option. And yes, that we would be glad. I would be very glad to entertain questions, and I'm sure Esther would be glad as well to entertain questions. So while we're waiting for those questions, thank you so much, Esther. So I would just maybe, while you were talking, I think just a few things you said, that our children will be influenced one way or the other, but we must be intentional with the influence we allow over our kids. And that's very correct. But one question that's kept bugging me while you were speaking, if you say puberty for kids begins as early as 8, 7, 8 in this time, when do you think is right to give kids access to social media or the internet? I mean, for the internet, right from when they're already babies, we give them access already. But let me say, for them to have their own personal devices and also be on social media, what do you think about that? When is the right time, really?
Okay, we all know that age has nothing to do with maturity, so to say. So for me, when is the right time? The right time has to do with when the child is mentally ready and has shown responsibility. Like I said, the ultimate goal of parenting is raising responsible children. Okay, so this same question I asked on a Facebook group I belong to, and I said, when is the right time for a child to have a personal phone? And most parents said at age 10. So they just use the criteria of age to say, once my child turns 10, my child has access or has a phone. In fact, I buy the phone and say, take, you just turned 10, take. But there are other things that should be in place. How responsible is this child? Can this child stand, under pressure or buckle under pressure? Because the truth is, the pressures will come. Today we have people that call themselves social media influencers. Their job is basically to influence. So can this child stand the influences that will come with this device you have given to this child? And can you control what this child clicks on? If you can't do that, I think the child should not be given a phone until responsibility has been shown in that child and there is some level of maturity and self-will. Okay.
Thank you very, very much, Esther. I think that answers the question aptly. So it's when you think your child is ready for such a responsibility, because owning a device is really a responsibility. I think here that clearly captures that. Thank you so much. And before we call it an evening, I'd like to thank everyone who participated in today's webinar. I'd like to say thank you. Okay, I have a hand up. Okay, let me ask him to unmute. Maybe we have a contribution. Ask to unmute. Chieme Ogumka, you can unmute yourself. Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Esther, for wonderful lecture. So my question is, because this is really centered on parents, right? So how about parents who they don't know how to use the internet, so they wouldn't even know how much time or how to regulate how much time their kids spend on the internet? What do we do about, because bulk of the parents do not know how to use the internet. They just, like you mentioned at the beginning, they just use their phone to make calls and receive calls. So, but they have children who are part of the digital natives. They are the ones opening Facebook for their parents when Facebook came, and so their children or their kids know more than them. So how do we control this set of people? Thank you.
Okay, Kela, you want to go or I should go on?
Oh no, the floor is yours.
Okay. Okay, like I said, if you are not digitally savvy, of course, these days the children seem to be smarter than us. That's just the truth. That is why, as parents, we cannot afford to, take the back burner when it comes to do with, or when it has to do with what our children are exposed to online. The consequences may be tragic. That's the truth. Whether, as long as you can make calls, you should find a way to upgrade yourself digitally so that you can know what is trending and know the kind of information to pass on to your child. Like when I made that post about Charlie, someone said, Esther, what's Charlie? And I'm like, oh, So we should be in their space. We should be in their space, but I know that not everybody can be digitally up to date. That is where values come in. When you have grounded and instilled right values in your child. I've heard a teenager say, Auntie, I was just browsing the net and an ad, something just popped up and I clicked on it, and before you knew it, I found myself on a porn site, and if I could control myself, I was already masturbating, So values, and this child, of course, I would say, has been, exposed to right values at some point. That was why the child felt guilty and needed to speak to someone and said, Auntie Esther, this is what happened. So even when the right values are in place, even when the child strays, somehow the child still finds his or her way back to the path which you have raised your child in. That's why the word of God says that children should be trained in the way they should go, so that when they are old, they do not depart from it. But I'd like to say that as parents, you cannot afford to just use your phones to make calls and catch up on your secondary school alumni. You need to be involved or know what's trending on social media so that you can have informed conversations with your children and help to steer them in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And well, I think there are no more questions. So thank you very much, Mrs. Esther. I'll be dropping her contact details in the chat box. So if you can go to the chat box, if you want to have more conversations with Mrs. Esther, her Facebook account is there, her Instagram, her phone number. You can contact her for deeper conversations. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our very first episode of Parents Connect. Thank you so much. We're going to keep having these conversations at least twice a month. And as far as you came on today's episode, you keep getting our information for subsequent episodes. Thank you so much. This event has been powered by Early Flight Academy. We are on Instagram at Early Flight Academy. Connect with us. We are very, very interested in the next generation of entrepreneurs, change makers, innovators. That's our core. Thank you so much once again, everybody, and a very blessed good night from me, Akilachi KJ. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mrs. Esther.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.